The Ocean Journey. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Sarah who lived in a small coastal village. Her house was perched on a cliff that overlooked the vast, endless ocean. From a young age, Sarah had been fascinated by the sea. She would spend hours staring at the horizon, imagining what lay beyond the waves. The ocean called to her in a way nothing else did, and she dreamed of one day embarking on an unforgettable journey across its waters. One morning, as Sarah sat on the edge of the cliff, a brilliant rainbow appeared after a passing storm. At that moment, she knew it was a sign. She packed her bag with a few essentials, a notebook, some food, and her father's old compass, and set off toward the harbor. The only thing on her mind was adventure. The villagers whispered among themselves, wondering how such a young girl could brave the unpredictable ocean alone. But Sarah's determination silenced their doubts. The first few days on the open sea were mesmerizing. The blue waves seemed endless, and each sunset painted the sky in breathtaking colors. Sarah navigated by the stars, trusting her instincts and the compass she held tightly. As the days passed, the solitude of the ocean brought her a deep sense of peace. But soon, the calm waters gave way to the wild currents. A massive storm loomed on the horizon. For hours, Sarah battled the storm, her small boat tossed by the towering waves. Her arms ached from steering, and her heart pounded with both fear and exhilaration. Just when it seemed like the storm would consume her, she spotted land in the distance, a mysterious island shrouded in mist. Exhausted, Sarah managed to steer her boat toward the island. As she stumbled ashore, she found the island unlike anything she had ever seen. Lush, colorful plants covered the landscape, and the sound of strange, melodic birds filled the air. Though weary, Sarah's curiosity got the best of her, and she ventured deeper into the island, hoping to uncover its secrets. The island, it turned out, was home to an ancient tribe of seafaring people. They welcomed Sarah with open arms, and she quickly became fascinated by their stories and traditions. They told her of a hidden treasure deep within the island's caves, a treasure that, according to legend, held the power to control the sea itself. Sarah felt the pull of another adventure, and with the help of the tribe, she set out to find the treasure. The journey through the island was treacherous. Dense jungles, jagged cliffs, and dangerous creatures stood between Sarah and her goal. But she pressed on, driven by a desire not for riches, but for understanding. Finally, after what felt like weeks of exploration, Sarah found the entrance to the fabled cave. Inside, she discovered the treasure, an ancient, glowing shell that pulsed with the energy of the ocean. Sarah knew that this treasure held incredible power, but she also understood that such power was not meant to be controlled. In a moment of clarity, she made the decision to leave the shell where it belonged, deep within the earth, untouched by human hands. With the tribe's help, Sarah repaired her boat and set sail once more. As she left the island behind, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The journey had changed her. She no longer felt the need to conquer the sea, for she had learned that the real treasure was the wisdom and strength she had gained along the way. Years later, Sarah returned to her village, but she was no longer the wide-eyed girl who had set out on her ocean journey. She was a woman who had faced the might of the sea and learned to respect its mysteries. And though her adventure was over, her heart would always be with the ocean, where the horizon still whispered of endless possibilities. As Sarah settled back into village life, she found herself often reflecting on the ocean's lessons. She began sharing stories of her adventure with the children of the village, inspiring in them the same sense of wonder she had felt as a girl. Some of the children would sit by the cliffs, gazing at the waves, imagining far-off lands just like Sarah had. Others would ask her to teach them how to sail, eager to learn the ways of the sea from someone who had lived such an extraordinary life. One evening, while sitting by the fire, Sarah noticed an elderly woman who had recently arrived in the village. The woman was quiet, always observing, but never engaging much in conversation. Something about her seemed familiar, though Sarah couldn't place why. Curiosity got the better of her, and she approached the woman. "I've seen you by the shore," Sarah began, "but I don't think we've met." "I'm Sarah." The woman's deep-set eyes twinkled as she smiled. "Ah, Sarah, the girl who ventured into the ocean and returned wiser. I've heard of you." Startled, Sarah asked, "How do you know about my journey?" The woman leaned in, her voice low. "Because I once took a journey much like yours, long ago, when I was not much older than you are now. The sea calls to those who are meant to understand it." Intrigued, Sarah listened as the woman told her tale. She, too, had sailed into the unknown. But unlike Sarah, she had sought to harness the power of the ocean. "I found a shell, much like the one you did," the woman confessed. "But I was not wise enough to leave it behind. I thought I could control the sea. The consequences were devastating." She went on to describe how she had lost everything: her home, her crew, and nearly her life because of her desire to control something as wild and untamable as the ocean. The woman had spent the rest of her life wandering, trying to make peace with her past. "The sea is not something we conquer," she said, her voice filled with regret. "It is something we live alongside, something we learn from." Sarah felt a deep connection to the woman's story. "I'm glad I made the choice to leave the shell," she said softly. "But sometimes I wonder, what if I had taken it? What if I could have done something good with that power?" The woman smiled kindly. "We all wonder what could have been. But you were wiser than I. You knew that the power wasn't meant for us. The sea is a mystery, and it is in that mystery that its beauty lies." After their conversation, Sarah felt a newfound sense of peace. She realized that while her adventure across the ocean had been remarkable, her true journey had only just begun. There was so much more to explore, not just in the world around her, but within herself. The ocean had taught her about bravery, humility, and the importance of respecting forces greater than oneself. Sarah began helping others in the village who wanted to journey to the sea. She taught them not just how to sail, but how to listen to the wind, to the waves, and most importantly, to their own instincts. In time, she became known as a wise woman, a protector of the sea's secrets. One day, as she sat by the cliffs, a young girl approached her. The girl's eyes were wide with wonder, much like Sarah's had been all those years ago. "I want to sail like you did," the girl said, "to see what's out there." Sarah smiled warmly, recognizing the spark of adventure in the girl's eyes. "The ocean is full of wonders," she said, but it is also full of challenges. If you decide to go, remember that it is not the destination that matters most, but what you learn along the way." The girl nodded eagerly, and Sarah watched as she ran off to prepare for her own journey. As she gazed out at the horizon, Sarah knew that the cycle would continue. New adventurers would rise, drawn to the sea by the same mysterious call that had once captured her heart. And though Sarah's days of grand adventures were behind her, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The ocean had given her all she needed: wisdom, peace, and a life full of stories worth telling. And so, Sarah remained by the sea, content to be both a guardian of the shore and a guide for those who, like her, sought to discover the vast unknown. The horizon stretched endlessly before her, full of possibilities, and in her heart, she knew that the journey was never truly over. Years passed, and Sarah grew older, her hair now streaked with silver. Though her spirit remained as adventurous as ever, she had become a beloved figure in the village, not just for her stories and wisdom, but for the way she helped shape the lives of those around her. The children who had once listened to her tales by the fire had grown into young men and women, many of whom had embarked on their own ocean journeys. One of them was a boy named Tomas, who had shown a particular fascination with the sea. From the time he could walk, he had been drawn to the shoreline, much like Sarah had been as a child. Tomas was eager to learn everything Sarah could teach him: how to read the stars, how to feel the direction of the wind, and how to navigate the unpredictable waters of life. Tomas had a dream of sailing to an island far beyond the horizon, a place that had become something of a legend in the village. It was said to be a land of endless beauty, where the water shimmered like silver and the skies were always clear. Few believed it truly existed, but Tomas did. And so, when the time came, Sarah helped him prepare for the journey, just as she had once prepared for her own. The night before Tomas was set to leave, he and Sarah sat by the cliffs, watching the stars reflect on the dark waters below. "Are you nervous?" Sarah asked, her eyes twinkling with knowing. "A little," Tomas admitted, "but mostly excited. I've been waiting for this my whole life." Sarah nodded. "The ocean will test you, Tomas. It will challenge you in ways you can't imagine. But remember, every storm passes, and every challenge teaches you something new." Tomas looked at her, a question in his eyes. "Do you think I'll find it?" "The island." Sarah smiled softly. "Perhaps. But the real treasure isn't the island, Tomas. It's the person you'll become on the way there." The next morning, Tomas set sail, his boat small but sturdy, with Sarah's compass in his hand. The villagers gathered to see him off, wishing him safe travels and offering gifts for the journey. Sarah watched him sail into the horizon, her heart full of pride, knowing that Tomas was ready for whatever the ocean had in store for him. Weeks passed, and then months. With no word from Tomas, the villagers began to whisper, wondering if he had been lost to the sea. But Sarah remained calm. She knew the ocean's ways, and she trusted that Tomas was out there, learning and growing, just as she had. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, Sarah sat by the cliffs, her thoughts on Tomas. Suddenly, on the horizon, she saw a small dot of boat, heading toward the village. Her heart leapt. As the boat drew closer, she saw the familiar sails, and her eyes filled with tears of joy. Tomas had returned. When he stepped onto the shore, the villagers cheered, gathering around him to hear his story. But it was Sarah he walked toward first, her old compass in his hand. "I found it," he said quietly, a smile playing on his lips. "The island. It's real." Sarah's eyes sparkled. "Tell me everything." Tomas described the island in vivid detail, how the water really did shimmer like silver, how the skies seemed endless, and how he had discovered not only the beauty of the place, but a deep sense of peace within himself. But as Sarah had predicted, it wasn't the island itself that had changed him. It was the journey, the storms he had faced, the doubts he had overcome, and the strength he had found within himself. "I realized something out there," Tomas said, looking out at the ocean. "It's not about finding a place. It's about understanding that the journey itself is the destination." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You've learned the greatest lesson the ocean can teach, and now you're ready for anything." Tomas stayed in the village for a while, sharing his experiences with others and helping Sarah mentor the next generation of explorers. Together, they taught the village children not only how to sail, but how to listen to the sea, to the world around them, and to their own hearts. As the years went by, Sarah grew older, her body slowing. Though her spirit remained as strong as ever, she continued to sit by the cliffs, watching the waves, knowing that her time on the ocean had given her everything she needed. And though she no longer sailed, she knew that her legacy would live on in those she had taught, the ones who would one day take to the sea, carrying with them the wisdom she had passed on. One night, as Sarah lay in her bed, the sound of the ocean lulling her to sleep, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had lived a life full of adventure, full of love and learning, and as she drifted off into her final sleep, she dreamed of the ocean, its endless horizons stretching out before her, calling her home. The next morning, the village awoke to the news that Sarah had passed in the night, her face peaceful as if she had simply fallen asleep. The villagers mourned her loss, but they knew that she had lived a full life, leaving behind a legacy that would be remembered for generations. And so, the cycle continued. New adventurers rose, guided by Sarah's wisdom, setting sail into the unknown, ready to face whatever the ocean had in store for them. And though Sarah was gone, her spirit lived on in the waves, in the stars, and in the hearts of those who dared to journey beyond the horizon. As time went on, the village transformed into a community rich with stories of the sea, many inspired by Sarah's teachings. Tomas, now a skilled sailor and mentor himself, dedicated his life to guiding the next generation of adventurers. He established a sailing school on the cliffs where Sarah had once taught him, emphasizing the importance of respect for the ocean and the wisdom it offered. Every spring, the village held a festival in honor of Sarah, celebrating her life and legacy. Children would gather around the old oak tree by the cliffs, sharing tales of their adventures and dreams of the sea. Tomas would recount stories of Sarah's journey, ensuring that her spirit continued to inspire all who heard them. One spring, during the festival, Tomas unveiled a special tribute, a large, intricately carved statue of Sarah, standing tall with her arms outstretched towards the ocean. as if still calling to those who dared to venture forth. The villagers gathered around, reminiscing about her warmth, her wisdom, and the light she had brought into their lives. I remember when she taught me how to read the stars, a young girl said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She said they were like guides, just like the ocean. Tomas smiled, knowing that Sarah's lessons were living on through these children. She taught us that the ocean is a teacher, a companion, and sometimes even a friend, he added. We are all part of its story. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the village, Tomas felt a familiar stirring in his heart, a call from the ocean that reminded him of his own journey. He realized it was time for him to embark on a new adventure, just as Sarah had done before him. He announced his decision to the villagers, and though they felt a pang of sadness, they understood. On the eve of his departure, Tomas stood at the edge of the cliffs, just as Sarah once had. He took a deep breath, feeling the salty breeze against his skin. The horizon stretched out before him, full of potential and promise. He glanced back at the village, knowing he carried Sarah's legacy in his heart. The next morning, with a small crew of eager adventurers, Tomas set sail toward the horizon. Ready to explore uncharted waters, he vowed to share Sarah's lessons with everyone he met, ensuring that her spirit lived on in every wave and every whisper of the wind. As the villagers waved goodbye, they knew that Sarah's legacy would continue to inspire generations. The ocean, ever-changing and eternal, had given them a gift, a connection to something greater, a reminder that every journey begins with a single step and a willingness to learn. And so, Sarah's story became woven into the fabric of the village and the lives of those who sailed the seas. Each wave that crashed against the cliffs echoed her wisdom, and every sunset held a promise of new adventures to come. In the hearts of the villagers, Sarah was not just a memory. She was a guiding star, a reminder to embrace the journey, respect the ocean, and cherish the bonds formed along the way. And as long as there were those willing to sail, her spirit would forever be alive in the stories shared. The waves traveled, and the hearts inspired.